Well, if I don't like it, I'll just pretend that the connection is getting slow.
Yes, you can do. That's funny. So I'll just jump in. I'm so excited to have you today. We have Mr. Benjamin Teuber, one of the sons of Klaus Teuber, the Catan creator. Thank you for being here, Benny. Or do you go by Benny or Benjamin when you're doing interviews?
It's actually Benjamin on the game box and in interviews, but as we already played Catan together, it's of course Benny.
I
So
know. I'll go with Benjamin so that people get used to that.
Let's do that. Okay.
So I right away wanted to ask you, what is a question that you get a lot about Catan?
See, when you started, actually, I was the most asked question for sure is how was it having a dad that invents when you grow up? Actually, it's very much related to Catan. This is like the number one question I'm asked.
Yeah. So how was it?
I wanted you to ask it. It's actually wonderful. It's quite nice. I think there are few nicer jobs. I'm not sure if I'm sure about this, but there are few nicer jobs than having a dad as board game inventor, because he actually approaches you on Sundays asking you if you want to hang out playing games with him, and I'm like, oh, I'm not sure if I have time or something. No, it's really nice. And as a kid, you don't really understand it. Of course, you kind of think maybe, each 10th dad is a board game inventor or something. But that it's quite a unique job. And we do have videos of, when we played together his new prototypes of kids games. He of course did a lot of kids games back then. So it's been very nice.
Did you ever get tired of it as a kid? Were you ever like, Dad, I just don't want to play another game this weekend? Or was it always something that you were super into?
No, actually not. I wrote this is kind of like the second most asked question. So I wrote
I figured they go in order, right?
You should read. I once wrote a blog post. It's called the 5 FAQ, the FAQs, one of them.
Yeah.
That I answer ironically and then serious, and that's certainly one of them. So no. And also he didn't ask me to rate the games or anything. He just kind of followed how I played, and then I think he was quite clever to never ask me or us as a family if we were kind of in the mood of there's no way we're playing a board game. So I guess the starting point of playing something is actually that you want to sit down and play. And if you're not in the mood, then there's no way.
Okay. So I'll ask you this then. What's a question that you've not been asked that you wish you were asked more often?
See, that's a new question. I haven't been asked indeed. If I think of something, I'll tell you later.
You're supposed to tell me now.
I know. But mostly, when we do new games, it's of course always exciting to talk about these.
Yeah.
And sometimes many questions are pointing mostly towards the time back then when Klaus was inventing Catan, rather than on what we're doing now. So it's equally exciting for sure, I guess, what we're doing currently in terms of developments and how the brand is evolving. And that sometimes as a whole, package comes short.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about, were you involved with the 3D Catan? Because I feel like that was a really recent development, and from what I've heard, kind of been in the works for a while.
It has been. So the 3D, it's an older thing, actually. We used to publish it a few years ago already as a limited edition. And,
oh, really?
We stick to the promise, so we couldn't just redo it. But we get so many requests of please do this version again. And Klaus actually hand modeled them. So I remember when we were sitting, it's a German custom actually to sit together in front of the TV and eat and watch the news and eat. bread and cheese and stuff, and then you watch a movie. And then that was the time when he kind of modeled the things with wax. And then, as he's a dental technician, he knows all this kind of stuff, puts it into a form, and then made it tin pieces, and created the landscapes by himself. And that was put into a game. And now, I think 15 years later, I'm not quite sure. I think it's 15 years ago. And now 15 years ago, we said, let's do it again, actually, and have this version again. And it's actually quite beautiful. And it's still the same ones, slightly differentiating because of production. It's a different material, times change. But the very base foundation of this 3D hexes is still my dad's work.
That's so exciting. How hands-on are you with like the developmental side versus like management versus whatever else kind of goes on?
It's less active development time currently than I actually would love to have. But Katan is, a brand which is growing very much. For that reason, we are always, looking here, looking there, having new developments there. So it's a lot of management and, having conferences and writing emails. So the goal is to get more room and time to go back to developing more.
And so I've asked Guido this, but where is a place that you would like, because like you see people play Catan online on social media in different like fun, crazy places. Where's a place that you may have not been yet that you wish that you had and you can play Catan there?
I see a lot of those images when people have that travel version and bring it to spaces like mountains.
Yeah.
And I've been climbing the Kilimanjaro once, but I have to say that the last thing I would have done there. Because, you're busy with so many things, but playing Catan, so, the very frank answer is that we play a lot of Catan. So I'm also quite happy, as you can actually see in the background of my game.
I see.
We have a lot of different games too, and I enjoy all of them. The beautiful other inventions. So I like playing Catan a lot. We played online. That's actually what my wife kind of like draws me in lately. She plays a lot. I don't force her to.
Allegedly.
Yeah. He's not here to prove that. Yeah, but so like it's like just playing generally is something I enjoy.
Awesome. Is there a place just in general that you, now that things are starting to open up in certain places in the world that you haven't visited yet, that you wish that you would like to?
A restaurant. For half a year in Germany, I haven't been to a restaurant anymore, and actually it may be this week that we go for the first time, so I'm quite excited.
Yay.
No, but jokes aside, we actually really like traveling, and we both dive, scuba diving.
Oh wow.
So we just want to go somewhere where it's nice to dive, and I'm really looking forward to this.
That's super cool. Where did you first scuba dive? How did you get into scuba diving?
That was in Thailand in 2007 with my best friend. We lived together in the flat while studying. And then we backpacked Thailand for 4 weeks and had 1 week of scuba diving. And that of sticked.
Yeah, without a doubt. So did you get Teeny into scuba diving, or was she already involved? Was she already digging scuba diving before you guys met?
I totally got her into it. Working very, I was like, just imagine how beautiful it would be if both of us could do that and pick our holidays by that. And she was a bit skeptical, but then she's also eager to try things. So
I love it.
She really likes it. I think she really likes it now, she said.
Allegedly. No. And so I've wondered this too, because I know Guido's here in the States and I know he came earlier. Obviously you've been, But what kept you more in Germany and Europe than coming to the States?
Actually, I lived in Argentina for half a year, and I also lived in Spain for a year. So I just like the Spanish language a lot, and the culture. And actually like the... Hablamos español,
Un
entonces.
poquito. Me gusta practicar.
Muy bien. So it's actually, I like the culture. And then actually when I didn't start at Catan right away. I studied psychology and then actually did other, internships and work experiences. But at some point I was kind of tired selling something or thinking for something that is not my heart and soul, and the moral and kind of like the topic and the theme and the background of Catan is something that I really like. Probably we talk about that later. But that's something that I thought, if I sell something or if I work with something or if I want to be creative for something, then why not a brand that I really respect, appreciate, and love? And then I came into the company, and I asked my dad and my brother, they were having the company already by then, if it's fine for them if I will be living somewhere else, but in Germany. So I moved to Spain for a year, and I told myself I want to try it for a year and then see how it is, that you have the 12 months.
Yeah.
But it was wonderful. But then, at some point you stop being tourist and you start living there, and then you get the grumpy people too. And you and then you're like, oh, this is, it was Barcelona actually, and I still love the city, but I like to come back as a tourist nowadays, rather than, like a habitant. And then, I don't know, to me, the German culture is also deeply rooted in me, and I kind of like it that, you know your stuff. And then also I live like 50 kilometers next to my dad, and it is practical. Also, he then wanted to pull out a little bit from the management side and the business side. So also I knew that it's quite good for him if I'm close by and, can go to our partners in Germany with him or also alone. And also we can meet up and play test together. So I'm actually really happy now in Frankfurt, but still whenever flying and like traveling as possible again, I'm out.
I love it. I'm out. Where to?
Well, it must be about diving for sure. We said that.
Yeah.
They say jokingly the 17th federal district of Germany is Mallorca, the island of Spain.
Okay.
So that would be very close by, and that would be an option. But maybe like Southeast Asia would be something that I'd really be looking forward to, like Vietnam or Thailand, if it's possible.
Yeah. Actually, I do well with swimming and water. I love the water. I'm so nervous when it comes to wildlife. So seeing that much like underwater wildlife that are probably faster than me.
You know what? Actually, it never fully goes away. I used to have that too, and I still hate going into a lake, to be very honest.
Really?
I always have the feeling something will bite me, even I know it's just 2 meters deep.
Yeah.
But then you still have that feeling. So if you go underwater and you dive 10 meters below the surface or 20 meters, it feels less threatening than if your head is above the water and you don't see what's happening and if there is a shark or something. And then when you scuba dive, you do actually see a lot of sharks. And at some point you just know how to behave, and they never do something. They're very peaceful animals, generally.
Okay. There it is, y'all. The sharks are very peaceful out there. So we talked a lot, or you talked a little bit about like the brand of Catan and like the future of Catan. What would you say is the brand of Catan for people that just play it and may not think about it? What would you explain to them? And what does it mean to you?
Okay, so there are multiple answers.
I know there's a lot in there.
There's so much in there. So Catan for me is very peaceful island. The beauty of Catan is really that it's uninhabited. And we used to have this. We it's Die Siedler von Catan, which means to settle something. And in English, you have the two, the settlers of Catan. And in some languages, settling is more like colonization. And then they called it, los colonistas or de Kolonisten von Catan. So that was something we never wanted to express, because the beauty of Catan is actually that you go there and you're the first one on this island. It's nothing about, like colonizing and pushing someone out, but just to go there and develop, build your roads. And you go there and you're by yourself, and you kind of develop and like negotiate. And we cannot count how many times we received like requests of, hey, I invented this awesome expansion called, tanks and bombs, or soldiers and ammunition or something. And people do seem to have a need to kind of like wanting to destroy other people's settlements and stuff and structure. And we, of course, with purpose, never introduced this on Catan, because we want to, not teach, but we think there is a way of trading and like working together and cooperate your way to the 10 victory points. Now, there is a really interesting clash of cultures that I experienced often when playing with like Germans, Europeans, and Americans. Actually, also with our licensee. That we tend to say in interviews, like even if you at the end didn't win the game, you still have 8 victory points, build something beautiful, and it's quite peaceful. And then people commented from the US like, oh, you clearly haven't played the game with us. It's war. So that was very fascinating for me to see, because then the perception seems to be different. And of course, like I got into fights with people over Catan. And you're kind of like battling there, but we like that you don't have a way of actually, attacking someone by taking something away, because it does not, it educates that there is another way of solving these kind of problems and still kind of get along, and everybody, has the right to kind of build a structure there. So that is something that I really appreciate about the brand. And we're also often asked if we can develop a game, for educational purposes.
Oh, wow.
But people don't want to be taught in games. You can never stand there and say like, this is right and you should morally be like blah blah blah. Nobody wants that. You're playing games for the fun of it, but if side effect of a good game is that you're learning something, then that's actually what that's a beautiful result that comes by with a good game.
I love that. I love that. It's funny. I'm grateful to hear that even Benjamin Teuber has gotten angry or mad during a Catan game.
It takes a long while, and maybe to add to this, we receive a lot of requests of, hey, can you send us a like a marriage best wishes card for our wedding. But we also received angry mails of people, some of you're responsible for our divorce.
No way.
We kind of like framed this, and then our answer is, we're really sorry to hear this, but clearly it's probably allegedly not Catan. There are different reasons for it, and this is something psychologically about games too. Whenever you're angry about this robber being against you again, you're never angry at the robber, but you're angry that this person seems to have some kind of grudge against you if you're really leading with if you're really not leading, but if that person still like occupies your spaces. So there's a lot of interpersonal, interactional stuff going on.
That's funny, because I've definitely been that person where like, it's like, I'm not even winning. Why are you robbing me? Not even close. But I'm trying something new. And so that timer that you just heard, like I was explaining at the beginning, that is, speaking of which, our robber of the day, which means I have 3 cards here, and each card is related to a question, not really related to Catan. and you get to steal from me. So just tell me 1, 2, or 3.
So actually, people mostly put their new cards on the right, and then if you remember this and it's been a good one, then I pick it from the right.
So my right or your right?
You're right. If you're a right-hander, then I pick your right hand card. No, that would be mine. That's your left. Yeah, that one.
So this is my sheep.
Okay.
And the sheep is, ooh, this one is actually the juiciest one, I thought. So this question is, what is a secret you kept from your parents?
Oh, yes.
Juicy,
Yeah,
juicy.
Now I do wish you would have sent me those questions. there are some secrets I can't tell publicly.
Of course.
That's really kind of juicy. You know, like when you get your confirmation, I don't know the word in English, but when you turn like 14, 15 in Germany, you like by a Protestant church.
Okay.
You go there, you kind of learn about, it's called Konfirmation. I don't know the English word now, but this is what everybody goes through, and normally most people do it because you get a big bunch of money, and basically that's the first time in Germany you're getting drunk.
Okay.
Everybody is getting drunk, and you know, like beer is hardly alcohol in Germany for many. So
yeah.
So I think I pretended that I didn't drink anything, but then latest when I've kind of, you know, started vomiting out of the window, I guess they realized.
Maybe.
So I guess this is something I didn't tell, but they kind of got the truth. I'm thinking of something that I haven't told them. To be honest, my parents, I have a very good and relaxed atmosphere with each other, and I guess the magic is that they were always really tolerant when I grew up. I mean, like, I kind of wondered sometimes that I was like, okay, can I go out to this place and do that? And I expected a no, but then they were like, yeah, sure, like we trust you. Like, you know, like you will do some stupid things in your life, but you know, you can always count on us. When there's something really bad happen, that's the only thing we ask you to is then contact, like, let us know so that, you know, we can help out, because that's quite normal what happens in a person's life when you grow up, that there are bad things happening sometimes, and that's actually something I really appreciated, of course, even more later when I grew up later, but at that time too. So I kind of like told them most things because they really had trust for me, so I could tell them those things.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so I guess it wasn't that spicy for you. But well, I'll ask another one then, because I actually really like this one. So another one that we had was, if you could be invisible, what would be the first thing you would do? Invisible. Mm-hmm. Or invincible, I guess. Why not? But I feel like then it'd be like stand in front of a truck or something. I don't know. What would you do?
There are so many things you would try out when you're
right.
I mean, frankly, like with to bring this to kind of a serious level, unfortunately, is I know some people who were affected by COVID. So like being invincible, I guess, is something, and you know, I'm not feeling old, but you do grow older and you realize at some point, you know, there are like bad health, etc., and you need to take care. So like just being healthy is something which I guess is one thing to be most grateful for. So had you asked me for a superpower, I would probably have said something like invincibility or being super healthy for a long time. What would I do? That's very tough to, you know, say something which you're supposed to say. You know, actually, there are a few maybe, like, I'm very interested in psychology, and there are a few like just things that you probably will never kind of know when you're like not standing there and being there to listen to it. So I guess kind
Yeah,
of getting into knowledge of few things which are normally spoken about behind closed curtains,
true.
like and I guess politics or stuff like that. That's something
Yeah,
that's very fascinating. I love movies about this. So like I guess these kind of things, like I see myself being kind of a, you know, James Bond kind of spy,
yeah, yeah.
trying to figure out some truth.
Well, at least you didn't say you would like walk around and look at other people's cards playing Catan or something. So,
you know, you know, who knew? Maybe.
yeah. So, can you tell us a little bit about some projects or things that you guys are working on for the future of Catan?
Sure. See, I'm glad you asked. This is from the beginning.
Yes, I circled
We
back.
had we have this very long time development now. It's about seven years that we're working on this, and it's Catan World Explorers, and
Okay.
it's from of those guys who did Pokemon Go.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
and it's about to be launched, I hope, very soon. So we're in this, we announced it already, so otherwise I'd clearly ask you to, I would propose, like, this is the connection is broken
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
but no, I'm allowed to talk about it. But we still have no official release date, so I'm quite excited that this comes. You will walk through the world. You will go to your workspace, and you'll have the world as a board game, and you'll have resource spots. You'll harvest there the 5 resources, and you'll bring it to settlements, and you'll build something with development cards, which are of course different from the game, but you'll have like libraries and kind of stuff, and you
Yeah.
get victory points, and you'll trade with NPCs who appear on the map. And yeah, this is really exciting because
That's
also it's such a
so
long-term
cool.
one, and we've been following this through since years now. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow. Have you gotten to try it out a little bit or?
I'm actually, I have it on my mobile. I need to beta test it, but I do play it a lot, actually. So I play it much. That's the beauty of this job. Sometimes your work is playing things.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
if you enjoy it, it's even better. So I have huge loads amount of work by playing this game currently.
That's so exciting though. That's really cool. I would imagine that's got to definitely take a lot of development just because of like it involves so many areas. It's not just like it's all over the world, right? So you go to your office, you go to the store, you're at a restaurant, and then so that's just I feel like that's a lot.
Yeah, and also it keeps you active. So sometimes you're like, oh, I need to still bring my resources to the settlement. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, okay, I do go out another time, and it keeps you active. So you're
It's
also
depth.
combining this, staying healthy, moving. Uh, uh,
That's so cool. So I asked Guido this and when I had him on the podcast, but I know that it took a little bit longer for Catan to pick up momentum here in the States rather than in Europe and Germany. Why do you think that was?
I guess one of the big reasons is in Germany, we always used to have, not always, but for a much longer time, we used to have like a board game culture, which has been developed on another level, like so for that reason you call it German styled games or Europe styled games, because they're different than like the Scrabble or Monopoly or Game of Life, and it's a different style, and the style that Catan is something that the board gamers authors scene kind of worked at years ago already, and those games always come from a like a development of time, of trial and error, and stuff. So I guess this is something which made Catan more successful right away in Germany. It's normal that when you have the game of the year, which is like the prestigious prize in Germany to win, that the sales rise, but normally it dropped in year 2. And for Catan, it's actually something that my dad always also gets asked in his interviews. it rose the next year, and then it rose again in the third year, and he was like, what, this has never happened.
Wow.
This is kind of crazy. And then he started actually thinking about, the expansion of seafarers. It had been in the first sketch of the game already. It had been part of it, but the game was too complex with seafarers. So he
Yeah.
actually said, well, why not add it? And so he kind of invented the expansion to a game, and that was like, people really loved it and bought it, and then the 2-player card game, and so like the whole brand here in Germany was already very known by the year 2000. And in the US, I guess the board game market started to like pick up on the European style games much later, and became much later a mainstream phenomena, or like a broader level phenomena.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's one reason, because it has been very much a niche project, and I guess we didn't even have 5,000 games or something sold in the first year. I'm not sure about this number now. One other reason is that it really took a while until the version that we sold in the US had a level which was appealing to the buyers as well. I guess we really managed with 4th edition because it was more accessible, but then 5th edition, which is our first really global version, in which all Catan games now globally have the same cover image.
Okay.
That has actually continued this peak in the US.
Okay.
And I guess this is one reason, and why it then picked up actually in the US too, has been when the Silicon Valley actually picked up the game, and for example, Reid Hoffman, one of the first ones to really talk about this publicly, recommended it to all of his tech friends, and was like, this is entrepreneurship in its essence, because you get dealt with a hand of cards by luck, and then you play them. But how you play them is your strategy, your tactics, your emotions, your skill of negotiation.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
So like that kind of went viral, and then we had this nice article of being the monopoly killer, and the tech guys now play Catan and eat pizza. It's a new golf of Silicon Valley, so to say. And then it got picked up by a lot of mainstream culture of, sports people, actors, even some politicians, some CEOs, some business people. And that is when it became something, which was woven much more into the cultural fabric, I guess, also of the US culture. Now, I'm saying this all from a European perspective, so I hope I get this right. And, I'm talking about something that but that's what I was told about from people living in the US. And I fly to the US each year 2 or 3 times. So I do know also like the impressions from there. But that's what I heard mostly are the reasons for it.
Yeah, that's so cool. I honestly think it's way better than Monopoly. Monopoly used to be my favorite game until Catan just came in and smashed it.
Very glad. And you're a good player, actually. It's been fun playing with you.
Thank you. I mean, I hold my own. It's funny because I would love to, now that I've never thought about ever playing competitively until meeting like Servad and stuff. And like, cause I've always just I play for fun, but the inner Capricorn and Sagittarius in me wants to win anyways. So, but nobody plays to lose, right?
No, that's so true. But you know what? There is this huge trend of cooperative game. It's actually lasting already some years, I guess 4 or 5 years. But I think personally that many people play it because sometimes you have so much stress during your workday, and you're already losing there, and you don't want to be more competitive at home, and then you play something which is cooperative. So I guess this kind of explains this trend. But let's be honest, if you play Catan, you want to win, you're not playing.
Right. Or
maybe you trade in whoever does the dishes. That's also kind of a win.
There you go.
Okay, then you do the kitchen.
I'll try that. I mean, I've definitely been like, because I don't necessarily always have to be like competitive. So like in the game, sometimes I'll put the robber in the desert, you know. I'll usually like to put in the desert and steal from somebody if I can, if it's touching the desert. But
You
it's
know,
still
it's a good strategy too, sometimes, and that's all, you
right.
know, the social, yeah, exactly. It's this kind of like you're so harmless then and so nice that even if you're leading a little bit later, you're not getting the rubber because you're like, who wants to destroy the
Yeah.
nicest person on the table? And you're like, oh, you know, that job when
Well, that didn't work with you and Teeny, so.
there's a level of coldness, which but you saw that too with the one settlement that she traded with me and then went there and settled
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
That's kind of when
it was ruthless. I love that. I love
you
it.
didn't see it, but I was kicking on the table.
How did you guys meet?
It's actually been a romantic Tinder story.
Oh, yay. There's
There's
hope
it's
for us.
been actually romantic. So I was in the US at that time, and a friend of mine Tindered her, and then he was like, well, you know, I like she's your type. Why don't you write her? And I was like, you know, that's I'm very different type than he is, and I was like, I don't think she will, you know, like me if she like you. And then he was like, well, why don't you just try? And then he texted her, and I was like, I just got the friend for you, and I want to meet you.
Oh
I
my
want you guys to
gosh.
meet.
Yeah.
And then she actually texted me, and then you know, I was like, you know, I'm not sure if this is of any use. But then we started talking, and we actually got along super well. And then I came back in Germany 2 weeks later, and then we met, and actually it really yeah, the sparks flew
Yeah.
right away. So it
Oh
was
my goodness, that
actually quite.
is so sweet. It's so sweet because it's a Tinder story too, and it's not even like you didn't even match her at
No,
first.
but you know what? Actually, I kind of forgot you know, I didn't tell. All of our friends know it by now, so we didn't tell that story for a long time. But she didn't even Tinder my friend. That came out later too. She didn't even Tinder him, but her friend Tindered my friend.
What?
Yeah,
What?
it's insane. Yeah.
What? That's really insane.
And you know,
That's crazy.
the cherry on this story is that we then later thought, you know, we should actually try to couple up those two guys, but then they
Okay.
hated each other. It's like no way that they were like ever like one date and they were like, no, hell no.
No, that's well, at least they knew that you guys would be right for each other.
Yeah.
There you go. So bringing it back to Catan, I have just a few more questions for you. What is your favorite version? Because we were talking about like Seafarers, City of Knights, Rise of the Incas. There's the card game, Starfarers.
I do like Rise of the Inca quite a lot.
Really? That's the one I haven't played yet. I have it. I just got it, but I haven't started it yet.
Okay, then let's we can play it online too on Catan Universe. But I like that one because it's very close to the base game rules, but very different because it's the first and ever only game that you build over the structures of other players. And whoever listened to this podcast a few minutes ago will be like, what? That doesn't make sense because that's just what we excluded.
Yeah.
But the key to this is that you know, you're playing the history of the you know, like the tribes that lived in the era of now Peru and like southern America, and the Incas have only been the top of you know, like the last development who took a huge territory until the Spanish came to colonize.
Yeah.
So it's the rise of the Incas because that's when the game ends. But until then, you try to bring three of your tribes to the golden age. And the golden age in the game is that you have 4 victory points, and then after you have 4 victory points, this tribe sinks, and you put like green, you know, like green wild growing stuff on top of it. That's a little game piece that you put on top of it.
Okay.
And then you build your second tribe. And the green stuff means everybody who wants to build over this now can. And up to the point that you didn't build over this, you actually still get resources. So you're quite mad if somebody builds over your ancient culture.
Yeah.
You know what to do. You need to continue and progress anyhow. So this is, I love it for that mechanic, because it's very tactile. It's strategic too, but it's very tactile when to change it. And sometimes changing one turn early to the next tribe is bringing the whole game down, and you're like screwed.
Wow.
So I love that one. And then the old classic, to be honest, Seafarers and Cities and Knights. That's always number one too.
You said old classic, were those because those were like originally after the base game, or?
Those were the two for like the core family of Catan is like the 5-6 extensions, then Seafarers, Cities, Knights, and you combine all of these three together, you got a big Catan game that's like alone setting up takes an hour.
Yeah, so true. Oh my, yeah, very true.
And then playing, regular time, and then like putting it all in the bags. That's actually what's nice about playing online. You're saving all this time.
Yeah,
you just go online in Catan Universe and start a game, and then that's actually that's what I liked, what I started appreciating now in Corona times.
Exactly. Yeah, the game set, especially my favorite is Seafarers. So Seafarers doesn't take as long, but there's different game versions of it. So then looking it up, how do I set it up? Which Catan Universe just lays it out. But yeah, City of Knights, I actually really do love. However, that one does get the most ruthless, I think, like Rob, the Saboteur, like all of that. So I definitely, got to be in a good mood for that one.
you know my wife Tini now. So I brought her to a board game weekend of it's called Katan Wochenende, Katan Weekend. And like hardcore Catan players meet, and we know them from our old online world we did together. So everybody of those guys is a crack in the game, and really, I know. And she didn't, and Teeny didn't know the game when we met, so she was like, Catan, I've never heard of this. And then she started playing, and then she started playing twice each day online.
Oh wow!
Much more than me. Hard. I'm saying this here between us, even though I know, like, that's a little test if she will hear this podcast later on. I've been quite scared to play against her lately, because I was like, she's playing thousands of games, and I think she'll beat my ass. So so she went, anyhow, back to the story. She went to this meeting, and then there was this one guy, and only Cities and Knights players can refer to this, but I tried to explain it. He built up his second city, then activated just one night, so that his one city will survive and all the other ones will lose their cities. And she was like, son of a bitch, like she was like, that playing behavior is such a badass.
That's
mean. And she was personally offended by this, even though it's been like a tough game mode. So, answer in short, yes, it's the most ruthless.
That is dirty. What's funny is I've done that, but by accident. So I built an extra knight, and then it screwed the barbarian number, and then I was like, oh my, I didn't mean to do that, guys. But I would never, I shouldn't say never, but on purpose, that's
it's good. I think he tried saying this, but then being in the top ranking of German national Catan players, I guess that was a bad excuse.
Yeah, no, you don't make mistakes at that level. No. So last question I have for you, Benjamin Teuber, is for anybody listening, for whatever reason, that may have not played Catan yet, why should they?
Because it's really a good game. And, it's, and I just thought like, well, everything I will say will sound like advertisement, and I don't. But I guess Catan is really like a game that is drawing a lot of people in for so many aspects, and there are so many levels and layers of this game that you can experience, and you'll find yourself in different ones. There are people that I know who appreciate, the exploring aspect, some love the emotional aspect. Then you have the very competitive aspect too. There's a lot of this in the game. And if you're not used to playing these kind of games, but you're more used to like playing Monopoly, which for itself is a good game too, not saying anything against that one, but you have so-called downtime. And the downtime means like I do my turn, everyone watches, and then the next player's turn, and I'm kind of bored until the other three players have done their stuff. And in Catan, you're always active and you're always, like it's like, oh, he rolled like an 8, he got wood on his hand. Let me trade with this guy. Like, hey, do you want to break? Like, you're always in the game, and that is something which I love about it, because you're never really bored, and you'll keep your smartphone in the pocket when you're playing with your family, especially. That's something which is really nice, that everybody's focused on the game and in the thing, and not looking on the smartphone all the time.
It's all true, guys. It's all true. I love that aspect of it too. Like, no matter if you're winning or you're like in third or fourth place, you still have like a stakeness. You're still looking out for, oh, am I getting resources? There's no place where you're like, well, I mean, there's a few times where you're like, well, I have 4 points, this person has 9. But there's still a level of excitement to see like what you're still going to gain from it. Where in Monopoly, I think if you only got $20, it's hard for you to come back.
Absolutely. Yeah. There are some games that you'll be losing in 5 hours, and that's not fun for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Katan, you can and you should, and that's like the advice. Even if you're winning or losing, always say you're losing to make people trade better with you.
That's and we'll end on that note.